Hello everyone, and in today's video, we will be discussing whether the Espada ranking is accurate or not. Before I get to that, I'd like to point out that I think if we want to answer this question, we need to first discuss how exactly are the Espadas ranked. So how are the Espadas ranked? I'm sorry, but even before that, I think we need to have a discussion on the ranking of the Arancars themselves. Mind you, Espadas are a type of Arancar. Since Arancars have always existed, and we know that they can naturally form when a hollow removes or loses their mask, and that was still true even before Aizen ruled over Hueco Mundo. The Privaron Espadas are specifically Espadas that were naturally formed until Aizen obtained the Hogyoku and started making artificial Arancars. My question is whether Arancars always had number tattoos or did Aizen introduce that system? It was confirmed by Xiaolong that Arancars above the number 11 are based not on their strength but on the order of their birth. Birth here meaning when Aizen turns them into Arancars from hollow using the Hogyoku. Now, the exceptionally strong or lethal Arancars are assigned a number from 10 and above, and those are the Espada. So clearly, Aizen gets to decide who is or is not Espada and what rank. A good example to make things clearer of this is Wonderwise. Wonderwise is basically an Espada level Arancar but is not classified as one. Dordoni, a Privaron Espada, even hoped to regain his position as Espada by proving his worth to Aizen by defeating Ichigo. So your rank is completely decided by Aizen and what he sees fit. Though Yami kind of messes this up because his resurrection gives the impression that the number tattoos arise naturally depending on how strong you are, that your tattoo is somehow or will simultaneously change to match your strength. Another thing I'd like to mention is that Espada ranking seems to be a range and not discrete positions. I have an illustration to make it more understandable. Now, for example, both Lupi and Grimmjow were classified as 6th Espadas even though Grimmjow could one-shot Lupi. The ranking of the Espadas later on is revealed to be from 0 to 9 and not 1 through 10. Now, I'm not sure. Either Kubo was trying to make a surprise or he was making the Espadas distinct from all Arancars as they would have single-digit numbers and 10 is not a single digit, so it had to go. I don't know though. Now, there are other points that I think must be kept in mind before we carry on this discussion. Number 1. Arancars who were not once Espadas can become one. Szayelaporro is one example. Number 2. Espadas can increase in rank. Ulquiorra was once Espada number 8 but increased to 5. Number 3. Espadas can outright lose their position as Espada. Grimmjow lost his title as Espada in position of the 6th Espada and was replaced by Lupi because he lost his arm. So when it comes to the ranking of the Espadas, I think there is a general agreement that it is accurate or it is consistent with their overall abilities from Espada 5 and below. The argument usually revolves around Espadas 4 and above, so I'm not going to be talking about Espadas 5 and below. I'm just going to be discussing Espadas 4 and above. The first Espada that I'd like to talk about is Baragon because there seems to be an overvaluing of what he is capable of, and some even go as far as saying that he is the strongest Espada. Why, you ask? Respira, everything ages, pretty simple, right? Except when we actually analyze his abilities a little further, we can find many weak spots that make it clear that he is not as powerful as it may initially seem. So starting with his Respira, its weaknesses are twofold. Number 1, which may be clearly obvious, is that Respira is a cloud slash vapor of some sort and not a solid. That may not seem like a significant factor, but it is. And that is because as Respira is a cloud, things can actually move through it, even though they would rapidly age slash decay. This is a very important factor because it means that Respira cannot actually block attacks. Soifon's first shot of Jaco Raikkoben was capable of getting close to Baragon. Respira would have been much more powerful if it could make, say, for example, like a solid wall that both blocks and decays attacks. This relates to the second weakness, which is that it actually takes time for Respira to age what it is in contact with. So an attack that is faster than the rate at which Respira can cause it to age, you can reach and therefore damage Baragon. It's the whole basis as to why Soifon's Jaco Raikkoben worked in damaging him. Moreover, if you remember, Hachi was capable of putting a Kido wall, and that was capable of blocking Respira, at least for a while. I don't think Respira is fast enough to decay Stark's Ceros, and even if Respira could decay Stark's high-speed Ceros, Stark could still use his Ceros as a way to at least prevent Respira from reaching him. Furthermore, Stark can spam his Ceros. Mind you, Ceros are not really used like that. It's like using money to make fire because of how rich you are. We don't actually know what Stark looks like because Stark and Lilinet were one hollow that split in two because their spiritual pressure was so high that it used to kill every hollow around them. Now, even Hollybell could possibly use her water to keep Respira away from reaching her. Though I want to point out something, that the anime made it seem like Hollybell's Cascada was an ability she could use by making her own water, but in the manga, the only time she uses the Cascada was when she turned Toshiro's ice to water. Now, anyway, with regards to Stark or Yami or Ulquiorra negating Baragon's Respira, as I have mentioned in my video on Unohana, my understanding of what Aizen has said is that it's only applicable if there is a tremendous difference between the fighters. If you remember, Soifon fought Yoruichi, and I assume Yoruichi has a higher spiritual pressure than Soifon, but she still wasn't able, or at least did not, cancel Suzumebachi's tattoos. People even bring this up with regards to Baragon's first fight with Aizen. Now, we actually are not sure as to whether Baragon always had Respira or it was a power-up given to him by Aizen using the Hogyoku, as he does indeed mention that Aizen gave him power. Next is Baragon's time delaying zone, which actually raises an interesting question as to whether the Espadas and Arrancars in general retain their base abilities in resurrection form or not. Because mind you, Baragon did not really use the time delaying zone again. He did not use it when, for example, Soifon shot her Jaco Raikkoben at him. Moreover, Soifon was actually capable of dodging a few of Baragon's attacks, as you can see, which indicates that the time delaying zone has a limited space or area across which it functions. Furthermore, Baragon's time delay zone is most advantageous against close-ranged fighters, for the very simple fact that close-range fighters need to get close and thus will occupy the time delay zone. Moreover, close-range fighters are usually act in one direction. Also, keep in mind that Baragon seems to be pretty slow. He does not seem proficient at Sonido. So imagine if Stark were to blast Baragon with Ceros from left, right, front, back, up, down, side, and everything in between. Getting out the way is what is required. and slowing the attack down would actually be irrelevant. So, all in all, I think that it's fair to say that the ranking of the Espadas 1, 2, and 3 is kind of fair, to say the least. Now I shall address Yami. Yami is problematic for many reasons. Let me start by addressing Yami being the 0th Espada and his quote fight with Kenpachi and Byakuya. Yami's power basically is that the angrier he gets, the stronger and larger that he becomes, symbolic of his aspect of death, which is rage. Similar to how Baragon has time-related powers even in base form. Apparently, Yami can store energy by eating and sleeping, and he is the only Espada that can do that. And once released, it can make him ascend to a level of the 0th Espada, which raises the question as to whether he would turn to Espada 0 without storing energy beforehand. I wonder. Now, some people argue that Yami would have eventually gotten stronger than Kenpachi and Byakuya as the fight progressed, and if he got angrier. By the way, is there a limit to being angry? Anyway, I think this point misses the greater and more obvious issue, which is that as Espada 0, he should be already stronger than both, or at least he should not be a joke. Let me give you an example to make it easier to understand what I'm saying. Let's say I have $1 billion. Then I'd be richer than everyone watching this video. I'd be surprised if a multi-billionaire is watching my video. Anyway, assuming I have $1 billion, saying, hey, I'm getting richer by the second and I'll eventually be a multi-billionaire. That is an irrelevant point because I'm already richer than you. Saying I'll get richer is irrelevant. Or perhaps what is going on is that Yami is just too stupid, or his anger acts as a double-edged sword, where yes, he gets stronger, but because of how angry he is, he cannot fight strategically, thus leaving many openings. For example, if you remember, Nell was basically injured terribly by using an illusion device. Being higher ranked does not stop you from getting injured. Maybe Yami just makes it too easy. It may be the case that Yami is the most powerful, but he is not using his strength efficiently. But anyway, if he is such a distinct and special Espada, if the rules are different for him, then so would the rule of being the 0th Espada to be an exception. That is to say, him being the 0th Espada does not follow the rule of higher ranking Espadas being stronger. That was a little bit of a joke, but whatever. And finally, we talk about everybody's fave, Ulquiorra. About time, isn't it? Now regarding Ulquiorra's second release, and as to whether if Aizen knew about it, Ulquiorra would have ranked higher. So some people argue, and even I initially thought, if Aizen knows about Ulquiorra's second release, he may have ranked him higher. I'd say this to that argument. Ulquiorra, in the translation I have, did not actually say Aizen does not know. He says he did not have Aizen see it. Now, Daddy did not see my new shoes does not mean Daddy does not know about my new shoes. Get it? Anyway, now Ulquiorra, as stated by himself, is unique because of his high-speed regenerative abilities, which he did not let go of in exchange of power when turning into an Arankar. If you look at how most of the higher-ranking Espada, higher ranking than Ulquiorra, fell, with the exception of Baragon, you realize that the injuries that caused their defeat or fall would not have caused Ulquiorra to go down due to his high-speed regeneration. But here is the interesting bit, you guys. Remember how we discussed that the Espada ranking is based on lethality or strength? Now regeneration is different from being stronger or more lethal. It does not make you stronger per se, you just won't go down as easily. If I could punch for 24 hours, it does not make my punches stronger, it just means I can punch for longer. Now, I'm not going to spend much time talking about his sonido because I think at least Hollybell and Stark can keep up with him. However, it would give him an advantage against Yami, for example, for simple reasons like dodging, and against Baragon, as we have discussed that a flurry of fast attacks surrounding Baragon theoretically could get to him. Now, aside from those, Ulquiorra has two other abilities, or rather, he has three if you count his first release. Number 1, Desero Oscuras. Number 2, Lanza del Lampague. Number 3, Luz de la Luna. I really hope I'm pronouncing these right. But his Luz de la Luna, I think, is simply a softer version of his Lanza del Lampague. Now, regarding his Cero Oscuras, Ulquiorra mentions that it is a Cero that can be used by Espada in their released state, implying that other Espadas, or at least those above him, can use it. We have seen Hollybell use a Cero in her release state, which was nowhere near the Cero Oscuras, but to be fair to her, she does not say it's Cero Oscuras, she just says Cero, which implies that she was just using an ordinary Cero. Now, regarding Hollybell, there was an interesting scene where Hollybell, after her release, was like a huge distance away from Toshiro, and she swings her sword. I don't think it's a sword, but anyway, she swings it and it cuts Toshiro even though she's a large distance away from him, showcasing the increase in her range. However, she does not use it again, and I think that scene should have actually been explained a little better. Now, one of his skills left to analyze, the deal breaker, is his Lanza del Lampague. Now, I think none of the Espadas have a technique within their arsenal to compete or counter this attack of Ulquiorra, except maybe perhaps Stark's wolves. Now, I do not have a data book or something similar detailing exactly how vast of an area Lanza del Lampague covers. However, when the wolves explode on Love and the other captain, I forgot his name, it visually looks comparable to Ulquiorra's Lanza del Lampague. Stark's wolves also have multiple advantages over the Lanza del Lampague. Not only can the flame wolves reform when destroyed, but they are more aerodynamic, meaning they can move in multiple different directions following the enemy, making them much harder to dodge, whilst the Lanza del Lampague is one-directional, and Ulquiorra admits that he has a difficult time controlling it. However, it's worth mentioning that Stark's wolves did not submit a lethal damage to Love and the other captain, which I forgot his name. But then again, they were captains and had their hollow masks on, and Love seemed to have jumped out of it. It's no surprise that the Espadas 4 and above are prohibited from undergoing resurrection within Las Noches. Stark's wolves, Hollybell's Cascada, Baragon's Respira, and Ulquiorra's Lanza del Lampague can actually destroy the Las Noches castle. To end this, I think I'd like to discuss the scene where Ulquiorra was revealed to be the ranked 4, the fourth rank of Espada, and states that there are 3 above him, even if Ichigo were to defeat him. As a side point, this already kind of says enough about Yami, because he says there are 3 above him, not 4 above him. However, 2 things can be going on. Either this was done before Kubo thought about the Yami surprise and Segunda Etapa, or it's confirmation that Ulquiorra is indeed not more strong than the higher 3. Anyway, Did I even answer the question? I'm not the best at coming to conclusions, honestly. I have just analyzed their abilities and pointed out what may be overlooked, so I guess it's up to you guys to decide. Did I cause a change in your list? What is the ranking that you think is accurate? Let me know and see you guys in another video. Bye!